Welcome back to another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Dr. Dom.
I'm DocJen.
And today we're going to be talking about cool downs from your workout. So what are the best things to do for your body for performance or for recovery after you exercise? There's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. All right, so cool downs, kind of like warm-ups. We just did an episode a couple weeks ago on warm-ups. The research can seem a little bit muddy on what is the best thing to do because everyone's an individual and research is tough to do perfectly. But before we dive into all of that, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you do for cool downs, what you have found to be most effective for your performance or for your recovery. And we do so many other topics like the one on warm-ups we did last week. Jen and I do so many topics on body-related issues or injuries, and she lets out a video every week on something more movement-related to specifically help you feel best in your body. So before we continue, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any of that.
When we're talking about cool down, I think the reason that it's pressed so much and that it is told that you have to do a cool down is really for injury prevention, is what people are trying to kind of do. Like, how do I properly recover in my body after I do an intense workout, and what is the best so that I help to prevent injury and I can perform as good as I need to the next day.
Prevent injury or reduce that soreness that we get after workout. And in the research, I feel like most of them categorize these into passive cool down techniques and active cool down techniques, or cool down routines or whatever. Passive meaning, I always think about passive stretching because we work in the movement space, and like passive stretching is where my mind goes right away. But the passive techniques they're talking about are more like sauna, ice bath, breath work, massage, things like that you literally are doing nothing and things are passively being done to you. Foam rolling, would that land in active?
I think that's more active,
I think that would land more in the active because you're actually doing something. I was wondering, because I didn't see in the research anywhere passive stretching. What category does that fall under? Which, again, is an issue with the research. We hear active versus passive, and we think one thing versus what the methods in the research are actually talking about. And then active techniques being a more active routine, whether it's a mobility flow, whether it's a lower version of the exercise you were just doing. If you were
on a jog,
if you were on a run
walk,
and you're just going, now on a light jog for 5 to 10 minutes at the end of that. So what's best to do?
In general, when we pull all the research together and we're looking at active cool downs, which is what is thought of to be like the key thing to be doing, right? I can even think of going to workout classes and they're doing squats and like arms overhead and breathing and lunges, and you're still doing active movements, but you're doing it in more of a low impact and cooling down type of way. But when we look at the research, and again, this is hard because active cool downs can mean many things to different people and to different exercise communities. In general, active cool downs don't seem to have any effect on injury prevention, first of all, and depending on the active cool down that you do, can actually have a negative impact on same day performance or next day performance.
And I think a lot of that really has to do with how strenuous is that active cool down that you're doing, and is it taxing the body further? And sometimes you might feel like you're not doing something as strenuous, or this is helping me like come down from the height of my workout. And I feel like that's what a lot of people talk about, especially if you have a really intense workout. You want to like slowly recover or slowly bring that heart rate and everything down, but there's not as much research to back that. Where doing the active recovery, there are a few things that we want to avoid. If you're somebody who really likes and enjoys to do an active recovery, we want to make sure that it doesn't cause additional fatigue and soreness. I think it's funny because one of the recommendations is it's less than 30 minutes long. Which most of our workouts from warm up to active workout to cool down are
30 minutes
or less. And so I'm like, if anyone out there is doing a cool down for 30 minutes, good for you. And hey, maybe if you're a marathon runner and
we might have some friends that do a cool down for 30 minutes.
We for sure have friends who probably cool down for 30 minutes. But if you went out for a 10 to 15 mile run, okay, I could get jogging for 15 or 20 minutes to come down from that. Whatever, to each their own.
Well, that's where it is individual. Like if you like it, it's not bad, but just listen to these to make sure that you're not overdoing it.
And if you're doing specific activities, okay. The other one is make sure it doesn't impact your glycogen resynthesis, which essentially means like glycogen is the fuel we have stored in our muscles. We deplete that to an extent during our workout. And if the cool down that you're doing is continuing to deplete your glycogen storages or your glycogen fuel, then that's going to affect our energy throughout the rest of the day if we have too strenuous a cool down. And the last thing is make sure you're doing something that you enjoy or make sure the cool down is something you enjoy, which hopefully the workout is something you enjoy. If you're not enjoying your workouts, I would always encourage you to explore and find things that fit best for you. But the cool down should also be something that you enjoy, because if psychologically you're just like, cool down, I got to do it, but I hate it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be beneficial for you.
Right. It's not supposed to be extra work. What we can see, though, being a little bit more beneficial is the passive type cool downs. It's more for recovery in a sense of it's down regulating the body. Think of your savasana at the end of a yoga session. You are literally laying down and almost falling asleep for some people.
I usually fall asleep.
So does my mom.
The few yoga classes I've done in recent memory.
But you're literally taking your body from this state of working out and being more active to now down regulating the system and getting it prepared for relaxation and recovery. That's the whole intention of a cool down is supposed to be recovery. So if we really want to recover, using some of these passive techniques like breath work, you could do that for 1 to 2 minutes. You don't have to do a long cool down session. If you do 1 to 2 minutes of intentional diaphragmatic breathing and laying down, feet maybe are propped up on something, and you're feeling your rib cage and whole like back expand and relax, and you're doing slow breaths, this can take you automatically down into a new state. And this is where we then start to recommend stuff. Foam rolling. You have to use breath when you're foam rolling, because we're not trying to fight and break up tissue. We're trying to relax and talk to the nervous system to down regulate. So
and
this is another tool. There's a lot of research
behind foam rolling in reducing delayed onset muscle soreness, in helping with some of the tension that might be in the muscles from the workout. So although it may not have fit into that passive category that the research was talking about, it's definitely not as active a cool down as some of the other things we're talking about, where same with mobility flows or doing a feel good mobility flow or doing some passive stretching.
Yeah.
Definitely on the lower end of the active things you can do cool down.
Oh yeah.
And along with breath during that mobility flow or passive stretching session, it's definitely going to help bring that nervous system down from the place it was at the height of the workout.
You did the roll into HIIT program with Jill and I. That was such a good example of a cool down, because Jill used her massage tools to actually down regulate the body with breath. And it wasn't like getting into, using balls and massaging and being like, oh, this hurts, and like tension and all that. It was literally, I'm going to lay on the ball, open up my upper back, and use my arms to facilitate a down regulation and vagus response within my body. And we can have this linked up in the show notes to the Roll into HIIT program, because it's something that you can still purchase, where you're understanding how you can effectively start to build in high intensity workouts, but have a good warm up and cool down after. And this is the perfect example. Like, I would do a HIIT, be so exhausted, do this 5-minute recovery. It was only 5 minutes, and feel so much different within my body. So really, if we're thinking of recovery, if we're thinking of down regulating the body, there are such easy ways to be able to do that without having to do this active cool down.
But in reality, it's what feels best for you.
Yes, it's so individual.
Having the ability to explore your own exercise, to explore some different methods for warm-ups and cool downs, and finding what over the next 24, 48, 72 hours or 6-week training program curve helps you feel the best. Do that.
Yeah.
Don't let research tell you how your body feels. Explore a little bit. You can use research to maybe direct some of your choices.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, what makes you feel the best, the most recovered, the least amount of sore the next day? And those are the types of cool down techniques that we would recommend you pursue, because we want you to feel your best. We want to lay out information that can, again, maybe help direct you to some choices or offer other options that you can try out. Find what works best for you.
Thanks for joining us again. I hope you learned a little bit, and it helps to guide better what you're going to do after your workouts. Of course, if you have any more questions, drop it below. Let us know what else you want to learn about, what other questions, what things you've heard, so that we can help break it down and make it simple for you.